What is up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? I am Guy from the Just Bluefish channel, and joining me, I was going to say as always, but we haven't done one of these in so long that it seems a little silly to say that. But joining me as usual when we do these things is AB from Watch Collecting Strategy. How are you doing today, AB?
I'm doing good. Like I told you, this feels kind of nostalgic. We haven't done one of these in a while. Life gets in the way sometimes, but I remember in the middle of the pandemic, we were pretty much doing this almost daily, and I really did enjoy it, and it feels very nostalgic.
Yeah, it's good to get back together. We were cranking them out for a while there.
hmm
I mean, I didn't even put out any videos for like 4 months, so there's that. But whatever, we're back at it, so it's all good. Let's take a quick look, see how many people do we have joining us today. It looks like couple 2 dozen or so already. Just going through the comments here. Somebody had said, uh, "Don't sell it. Make the same mistake that he spoke style guide did with his 5711. This is in reference, of course, to the title of this live stream, which is Selling the Submariner. And if you looked closely at the thumbnail, you might have noticed it's a no date Submariner. I don't own a no date Submariner. Somebody else that's in this live stream owns a no date Submariner, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Let's just say hi to everybody. We have Chi-Town, California joining us as usual. He's always here for the live streams, and we're happy to see him. Craig G saying, "Hey guys, how you doing, Craig?" We got Six Killer 2121. Hello everyone, and what's up, Wrong Time Watch? We have Wrong Time Watch in the comments. I didn't see his yet. But yeah, we got a nice little group of guys here checking out the live stream. So let's jump right into it. Now, before we talk about what I'm going to call a watch intervention to try to convince AB that selling his Submariner might be a bad idea, there's a couple of things I got to get to first real quick. There's a few giveaways. If you guys saw, I recently posted a video about Uncle Seiko bracelets. And in that video, there was a giveaway to win 2 of those bracelets for the Omega Speedmaster. And I did go ahead and pick a winner. I'm going to go ahead and put that up on screen. Give me 1 second here, and I will share the winner of that giveaway. It is Bobby Smith, who said on his post, hashtag Uncle Seiko, Guy, thanks for the great giveaway. I just bought a Speedy, not the new one. So, yeah, Bobby Smith, if you're here, say hi in the comments. I'm guessing you're not here. So if you see this video after the fact, reach out to me via email, justbluefish@gmail.com, and we will arrange getting your Uncle Seiko bracelets sent out to you. So yeah, congrats to him. Now, one other thing to point out, I talked about a Instagram artist called Ink Dial. Do you know who Ink Dial is, AB?
No idea, but I can guess what it is.
He does some of the most amazing pen and ink watch artwork that I've ever seen. Here's an example of his work. If you guys can see this picture, it's a Rolex GMT Master 2. And when I talked about his artwork in that video that I did, I called it watch porn. And in the title, it said watch porn. And so many people commented and said, "Are you telling me to watch pornography?" No. But the drawings that he does are just straight up watch porn. It's amazing work. Anyway, he
So,
reached out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
quick question. Is this like, did he draw this by hand or is
And
this?
yeah, hand drawn, pen and ink. He has videos of as he's drawing them on his Instagram. So there should be a link down in the description of this video. Everyone should go follow him on Instagram. His name is Ink Dial, at Ink Dial. He also has a website where he sells these prints. So after I spoke about this and just out of nowhere, you know, I found him and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I want to tell people about this. I never spoke to the guy before or anything. He saw that video and he said, hey, I'd like to give you one of my prints as like a thanks for the shout out or whatever. Well, I said, how about this? Instead of giving it to me, what if we do a giveaway? And he said, sure, no problem. So one of you guys can win this print. This is the Rolex GMT Master 2. And if this isn't the one you want, you might be able to ask him to pick a different one. But he's going to give one away. It's an A3 size print, which is like 12 inches by 16 inches. So it's a really pretty big size print that he normally sells for 95 pounds, which I think works out to be about 125 or 130 US. So here's how you're going to be able to enter for this giveaway. First of all, go to Instagram and follow Ink Dial. And again, there should be a link in the description if you can't find his Instagram. Next week, probably, or the week after that, I'm not sure. I'm going to be doing a video revisiting this watch, the Rolex GMT Master 2 Pepsi. And in that video, I'm going to let you guys leave a comment and say if you want to win it or not. And then I'll pick a winner from that list of comments during that video. So for right now, go over to his Instagram and follow him. In the meantime, keep an eye out for my next Rolex GMT video. And that's where the giveaway is going to be taking place. But I just wanted to share this with you. He was really cool offering to send me one personally, but as much as I would love to have one, I'd rather just pay him for it, and I'd rather one of you guys get one for free. So that is what it is.
So looking at it from, you know, I've never seen this one before, but just from quick impressions, first of all, I'm really amazed that he does that like basically by hand. And also the rehot, he even put so much detail into putting the Rolex on the rehot, which I know nothing about art. I can barely draw stick figures to save my life, but I'm guessing that part was super hard. But dude, whoever wins this, congratulations, because this is an actual piece of art.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I said, I saw it and I was just like, I got to share this with people. So I just mentioned it in one of my random talking videos. I was like, go check this stuff out. It's awesome. And he reached out to me and yeah, made that offer. And I was like, cool. Well, one of you guys are going to win one. So keep an eye out for that video coming up the next week or so about the Rolex GMT Master 2. And we'll talk more about the giveaway there. So that's my whole spiel about the giveaway stuff that I wanted to catch up on. Sorry it took so long. Now, AB. True or false? True or false? You are thinking about selling your Rolex Submariner 114. What is the reference number? The no date ceramic.
114060.
True or false?
I plead the fifth.
No, you are under oath, sir. You put your hand on the Bible before we started this live stream. Come clean with us.
It is.
Are you thinking about selling that watch? Have you decided yet? And why are you thinking about doing it?
So, 100% true. And I've gone back and forth with the thought of selling the sub for a very long time. I've talked about it in a video before, the reason why I haven't. I realize, especially being on YouTube, a lot of people get very offended when I say, hey, I think this watch is better than the sub. But then they look at my collection and then they see the sub. So they get furious. They get absolutely furious. And it's kind of funny to watch, you know, grown men get really mad about other people's watches. But regardless, my fear with the Rolex sub has always been, I like the watch a lot. It's a solid built watch. No matter what diver you get, I always come back to the sub because there's just something cool and iconic about it. Is it the best diver out there? I've said it a million times. Absolutely not. But my fear of selling it is not being able to get it again. You know, the fear of missing out. Like, I want to know if I sell this thing, will I miss it in the future? And I've come to the conclusion that there's no way I can ever know that. You know,
until you do it, right?
Until you do it, until it hurts, right? So no matter how much I tried, I always go back and look at it and say, oh, you know, I like it, but there's other things I want to experience in this hobby. And unfortunately, I am not a multi-billionaire. I need to be responsible with my money, you know? So if I'm gonna bring something in, which my current obsession with watches has taken me to a very dangerous spot, and I'll talk about that in a second. But my current state in this watch hobby is getting pretty expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
So in order for me to enjoy these watches, I have to be responsible and sacrifice something that I like for me to experience other things that I also like, you know?
Well, we've got some comments floating in from the folks in the live stream chat here. Let's take a look at what people think about this. Let me just scroll up. Ignacio mentions awesome drawing talent. Yeah, in regards to that ink dial picture. And Legendary asks, and we'll just address this real quickly. Do y'all prefer GMT or World Time? Me personally, I prefer GMT. What about you, AP?
World Time, 100%.
Ignacio says, you're on crack. And that comment came in right when we mentioned that you were thinking about selling it.
I mean, this, go ahead.
I was going to go on to the next comment, but if you'd like to answer that, feel free.
I'm just saying this watch hobby is getting more dangerous than crack, to be honest. The addiction is way worse. So
Watch Medicine says, sell the sub to get a Vacheron overseas. And I know you've looked at the Vacherons before. Is that something that maybe you're thinking about?
To be very honest and not to go with the hype, I love the Vacheron, but I feel like if I ever buy the Vacheron, I'm compromising my favorite integrated bracelet watch. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love the Royal Oak beyond any other integrated watch. There's great watches out there, some better watches than the Royal Oak, but there's just something about the Royal Oak, specifically the one I can't get anymore, the 15202. But I'd be happy also with a 15450, 15400, 15500, whichever. The problem with the Royal Oak is it's becoming, AP in general is slowly becoming like Rolex at a slightly more expensive price point. But if I bought the Vacheron, in the back of my mind, I will always think about the Royal Oak.
It's like, why didn't I get the Royal Oak? And you almost feel a little, I mean, it's not a compromise. It's a great watch, but for you and your personal tastes, it would be almost like a compromise, right?
And there's a lot of pros and cons to everything, right? Patek 5711, I put underneath the Vacheron and the Royal Oak. I know people will call me crazy, especially with the Patek Nautilus trading for $100,000 now and up, which we can talk about in a separate time. But in terms of finishing, AP Royal Oak is on the top. The way they finish that bracelet, the amount, just the finishing on the overall watch, not talking about the movement, to me is better than the Overseas and the Nautilus. So I would get the Royal Oak if I could at retail, then the Vacheron, until they make a 39mm or 38, then maybe there's more competition, and then I'd consider the Nautilus.
I'm with you. I agree. I like the Royal Oak better than those other two, the Vacheron or the Patek. I think, everyone's mileage may vary. For my mileage, I just like that watch better. That said, let's touch on a few more of these comments real quick. The Town Watch just says, hey guys, checking in. Thanks for joining us today. Craig G, your watch, your money, your decision. And yeah, I mean, you'd mentioned people like freak out on you when you like make a video saying something is better or whatever. I'm thinking about selling it and someone says you're on crack. Like, it's your money, it's your watch, it's your decision for sure. Ignacio asks, what's the alternative watch? You touched on the Royal Oak, but I don't think that that's a realistic option for you right now, if I'm guessing. So if you sold the sub, what would be your next target for acquisition?
So the honest truth was the Royal Oak was part of the list.
That's actually, you actually think you can get one for like a reasonable?
So for retail, I was only going to get it at retail. Not gonna get it pre-owned. I've just decided I'm not gonna get a Royal Oak 15450 that retails for about 16,000 minus taxes for 35,000 on the pre-owned market. That is ridiculous. I'm sorry if somebody purchased it, but I think the Royal Oak is a great watch at 16,000, maybe even 20 if I'm stretching. But 30, 35,000, then the 15202 trading for 50, 60, 70, 80,000, I would never pay that. But people tend to forget
how do you get one at retail though?
you get on a stupid waiting list that they're probably not going to give you the watch.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, all those waiting lists are fake. It's not real, right? Like you could walk into a Rolex dealer or an AP dealer and be like, "Put me on the list," and like they're not calling you if they don't know you ever in a million years, are they?
So the thing is, I think AP and Rolex waiting lists operate differently.
Okay.
The way AP works, and like the way I've seen things, is they really do take you seriously as a client, right? If you are a collector already of AP, they tend to be a little bit more lenient. Like they get you the watch you want, assuming it's not a very hard watch to get. We're not talking about the 15202, for example. With Rolex, I feel like even if you buy 10 Datejust from them, I still think if they don't like you, they're not gonna get you to watch, right? I feel like you just have the first part of going to Rolex is you have to make sure they like you first and foremost, and they give you false promises of, hey, once you become a frequent customer, then yeah. And like I've talked about the Rolex waitlist before, I said the last thing you want to do is play their game and start buying a bunch of Datejust you don't want just to maybe potentially get a Pepsi, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
AP, go ahead.
with Rolex, like in my experience, I bought my Submariner and Explorer from my local authorized dealer, and another watch for my wife, which was a Cartier Tank, and I bought it all from the sales manager that was there at the time, and then he left, and poof, I no longer have a relationship with anyone there. I went in and tried to make friends with the guy that now works there, and like, we chat or whatever, and he's nice and he's, shared information with me and whatnot. But like when it boils down to it, I'm like, hey, I would like to get a Pepsi. This was, going back before COVID times. I mean, flat out told me, no, not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, forget about it. So if had the other sales manager still been working there, I think maybe it would have happened. But your relationship, like you're saying, it's like, oh, buy a whole bunch of watches. And then like, what if that person quits? What if that person leaves? Like you've got nothing to show for it.
That does suck. Like I never even thought of that. What if a guy spends years of building a relationship with someone, and then that guy just decides to have a career change? He just doesn't want to work in watches anymore. That, I don't know. But for me, if I was going to get the AP Royal Oak, and I've completely changed my mind for several reasons, but if I was going to get the Royal Oak, I think I would have been able to. I have a few friends in the industry that can, somewhat hook me up with AP. Nobody in this industry can hook you up with Rolex. That's just flat out. But with AP, I feel like they're a bit more lenient. And the last thing, so we can get out of the AP topic, people tend to forget the Royal Oak at 16,000. I know that's a lot of money, but compared to what they're selling pre-owned, is not that bad. It's relatively achievable if you're looking at the $35,000 price tag that the 15450 is trading at right now.
Now here's a good comment. Underachieving watch collector says you can always get another Submariner, just work harder. And you had alluded to like being a little worried, like, well, I probably won't be able to replace this if I sell it. I mean, if you're willing to pay the money, you can replace it, right? Like you're just gonna have to pay a lot more. You'll never be able to replace it for what you bought it for when you bought your watch. That's the real problem.
So I have two answers for this. What one is, yeah, you're 100% right, but I've thought about it, and if I do sell my sub and I miss having a Rolex sports watch, I think I would go with the Batman next. Just
Another
because
hard one to get though. I mean,
hard
now
one
this
to
discontinued and on top of being just in demand.
but I'm saying, like, assuming I'm willing to pay double retail, right, or whatever they're going for right now. Let's assume that for some reason I win the lottery and I'm ready to buy another Rolex, and I miss my sub. I think I would buy something a little bit different. So as much as I would miss it, in the same time, I'm just the type of person that likes to experience as much as possible.
Yeah.
So if I were to revisit it, I think I would get the Batman with the Jubilee bracelet, the slimmer case, and the newer movement.
Here's an awesome comment. Chi-Town, California says, we can blame Rolex ADs for turning us onto other hobbies. My friend couldn't get a Kermit from his AD, so instead he bought a Stratocaster and 3 vintage 2-stroke Yamaha motorcycles. And here's a funny thing. Let me change my thing. What does this look like right over here? Oh, look, it's a Fender Stratocaster. I did the exact same thing. I bought, over the last 2 years, I've bought 2 guitars that were, not crazy money, not like Rolex money, but an American Fender Stratocaster and an American Gibson Les Paul in the last 2 years, because I can't get the watch I want. I might as well get something else.
And you know what? It's also 100% true for the watch industry. Believe it or not, people hate when I say this, but Rolex not giving us what we want, Rolex doing all this, is doing a massive favor for the entire watch industry.
Sure.
Massive favor, because a lot of people now are talking about brands they never even considered or knew existed before this whole Rolex shenanigans thing. You know what I mean? I'm seeing way more people requesting reviews of watches that I'm pretty excited about, because I'm like, hey, people are actually starting to look at other things. There's other watches in the market now that are going up in price. I'm wearing right now the FP Journe. I don't know if you can see that, chronometre. This is another watch that I personally believe people started focusing on, like independent watchmakers, not just FP Journe. There's other brands like Gronfeld and so on. People started focusing on those brands simply because they're sick and tired of Rolex. So without Rolex meaning to do it, I think they did a gigantic favor for the watch industry.
Yeah, Rolex is responsible for selling more watches for other brands than maybe for selling their own watches at this point.
Boom, make a t-shirt, sell it on your channel.
Let's see what other comments we got here. See if I can get caught up. They're starting to fly in a little bit. Rod says, just buy GME, then you can afford whatever you want. I've been following that GameStop stock fiasco. It's insane. I wish I would have got in on it early, but I missed out. It is what it is. Watch Once Over says, out of sight, out of mind, AB. I sold both my Rolex. So you're not alone. There's other people that are thinking the same thing that you are thinking. On the other hand, Kavork Nurian, if I'm saying that right, says it's a mistake to sell a Rolex. So, everyone's got different opinions.
Let me say something really quick. If you sold both your Rolexes, at least make the one you traded with worth it. You don't want to sell your Rolex and then buy something that will make you miss your Rolex. Just buy something that's worth it. And the things that I'm thinking about, I think are worth it. Yeah,
that's in reference to the comment from Watch Once Over, which is just dawned on me. This is Eric's YouTube channel. I don't know if you guys follow Eric Slofer, but you should check out his channel if you don't. He's an awesome guy, and he gets lots of really cool watch videos going on over there. So yeah, check that out. And there's some sort of little bug flying around me. Go away. I feel like I'm a cat. Like
he just wants to talk. He just wants to talk watches.
Yeah, I guess. Let's see. AH says you better be selling it for a 124060. I mean, technically that's not out yet, but I guess it's coming, right?
No, that's the new no date, I believe.
I thought they only released the date. Do they have a no date as well already?
No, they have the no date as well. You see, me and you, I feel like we're in the same boat, where the new Rolex releases and Omega Speedmaster, like we kind of cared about it for a few seconds, but then we just moved on because it was so utterly boring that we just kind of brushed it.
A totally different topic that we should probably talk about at some point as well. But yeah, the Omega Speedmaster, the new release, and the Submariner new releases, I noticed them or whatever. But yeah, I wasn't like blown away by either of them. Neither one was like so compelling. It was like, oh my God, I got to rush out and get one of these. Do anything I can. Just not that they're bad. They're cool. Whatever. Let's see. Young XLNC says, it's not like the sub is limited edition of 9 pieces. You can always buy another one. Might cost you more money, but you get the opportunity to enjoy other pieces. Maybe you find the watch for you. And I think that's kind of how you're looking at it, right?
It's never gonna happen. Let's all be real here. There's no the watch. It will be the watch for a few months, and then all of a sudden it's no longer the watch.
Right, right. Watch Medicine AB, just drive down to the AP boutique here in Miami and get the Royal Oak at retail. You may have some wait time depending on dial color, but it's worth it. Yeah, Miami's not a long shot from where you're at. Maybe you just got to like reach outside of your area and you can find one more easily.
I was actually gonna do that. Only, I mean, it's by default, right? Because the only AD closest to me is Miami, which is about 4-5 hours away. So I was gonna have to do that, but in the same time, you know why I didn't do it? A lot of people
No, wait a minute though. I know you're not in Orlando, but I think you're closer to Orlando. You're telling me there's no AP dealer even in Orlando?
Nope, no
Wow,
AP
okay.
dealer. Miami is the closest, and the reason why I decided against it is because a lot of collectors I've spoken with that have the Royal Oak said, hey, you know, go into the boutique a few times, and I'm like, look, I'm not driving 5 hours to the boutique every time just to say hello, you know. It's not, I don't want it that bad.
Yeah, sure.
So
you need like somebody at an authorized dealer to become a fan of your channel and then like strike up like some sort of long distance like friendship with them and then be like, yeah, give me a call when you got one and I'll come pick it up.
Or I can connect with them through Zoom or something.
Yeah, exactly. What else do we got here? We have another topic that we're going to jump into in a few minutes. I'm just going to scroll through these comments here and I'll pick a couple and
you know,
then we'll go on to the new topic. Go ahead.
I knew that there's going to be a lot of comments because me and you have been gone for a long time, you know. So I knew there was going to be a lot of comments, but it's interesting so far. I can't tell if people are for or against me selling the sub.
I mean, there's a little of both. A little from column A, a little from column B. Legendary Sideburns says, if Rolex isn't plucking your heartstrings, selling it's probably the best idea. So, you know, some people are kind of on board with you. Some people think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. And if we were having a true proper watch intervention, I would say the Submariner is a permanent piece of any watch collection, in my opinion. But
that is true. But unfortunately, I have to be somewhat responsible, especially the watches I'm looking at. I don't even know if they're achievable, but I need to be somewhat responsible, I think.
Well, you got to do what you got to do. All right, so I missed a few of the comments here. I apologize if I scrolled past them. This interface is wonky where like I'll start scrolling and then it'll just like snap to the bottom and then I scroll back and forth. So if I missed some of your comments, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. But let's move on to the next topic of discussion since we're about 30 minutes into this live stream already. AB had an idea. What was the idea that you proposed to me? This is pretty crazy, but we're going to do it. What was your idea?
So I was thinking to myself, and you can do this exercise too, everybody in the comments, with preferably a buddy that you somewhat know, right? You need to, like me and Guy were friends. We became really close friends. And I kind of know his taste now, and I think he knows mine. So it made this exercise a little bit faster. Like I'm going to explain what it is. Basically,
at this point, this description sounds like it could be going in two totally different directions. I'm hanging on by the edge of my seat here.
So basically, we're building each other a 3-watch collection.
Oh, okay, right? Okay. It didn't go the direction I thought it was going.
Yes. So we're building each other a 3-watch collection. And there's a few ground rules. There's going to be certain prices, which Guy will explain because I already forgot. And also, we're not allowed to choose watches that are currently in our collection. So I have to build a 3-watch collection for Guy, and he has to do the same for me. And then I guess we can somewhat rate it in the end. I'll see, like, you know, just give a imaginary percentage of how accurate do we think the choices were, you know?
Yeah, and while we're doing this process, the way it's going to work is I'm going to pick 3 watches for AB. He's going to pick 3 for me. They have to be within 3 price points. 1 watch is under $1,000. 1 watch is under $10,000. And 1 watch can be any price. The sky is the limit. So while we're sharing our picks for one another, if you guys would like to tell us what your ideal 3-watch collection within those parameters of 1,000, 10,000, and any price, feel free to do that in the comment too. And we'll pull up some of those and kind of rate your 3 picks as well. So yeah, let's get started with it. Real quick though, somebody asked a question. I'm going to just chime this in here. Guy, have you sold your Speedmaster? Yeah, I sold it to a viewer of the channel probably, I don't know, 2 months ago now. It was a while ago. And yeah, unfortunately, it's gone. But COVID made money problems happen. So that was an easy thing to get rid of quickly for roughly the amount of money I wanted. I was asking $4,000 for it, and a lot of people were like, "You're crazy! You can get them for 3,000." Like, this isn't 2017 anymore. Nobody's getting nobody's getting Speedmasters for $3,000 anymore. But I did do it for 3,900, so I got almost what I wanted, and it included the adjustable clasp upgrade. So he's happy, I'm happy, it worked out fine. But yeah, no more Speedmaster in my collection.
Not to mention, if you have the sub, honestly, I didn't think you were going to miss the Speedmaster that much, because as long as you have one or the other, wait, no, I'm contradicting myself. Never mind, I take back what I said.
All right, so here is my pick for AB's watch collection under $1,000. Let me pull up this picture and go. AB, since you're thinking about selling the Submariner, you're going to need a dive watch in your collection. And I know you're not a huge dive watch guy. I know you're not like me that just absolutely loves these kinds of watches, but I know you like them enough that you're going to want to have one. So at around $1,000, I think that's where your dive watch should sit. And my pick for you is either of these 2 Seikos. The limited edition SPB 149 with the blue dial would be the preferable one, because I know you like a little bit of jazz in your dials. You're not just a black dial kind of guy. That is a hair over 1,000. If you can find one, since it's limited, it might be hard. Alternatively, the SPB 143 for about $1,000, 900, something like that. That's your dive watch. That's your quote unquote affordable watch for your collection, if I'm picking it for you.
Well, with this game, you are. So this one is now in my collection. Hopefully you got the blue one for me.
Yeah, right. Well, let me know. What do you think of this pick for your sub $1,000 watch? Did I hit the nail on the head? Did I hit the mark? Or would you have not even considered this for yourself? Where do you stand on this pick?
I love the choice, although I will admit this release, while everybody was going crazy over it, it just didn't appeal to me that much. But as you mentioned, I'm not a big dive watch guy. And during the time this was released, I was a bit Seiko'd out. Like, I've been reviewing and looking and researching so many Seikos that I wasn't really focused with it. But looking at it again, not the black dial. So the black dial, black bezel, I wouldn't go for it. It's a little too boring, I think, for me. But that blue looks fantastic. That I almost actually just want to get it right now. That looks absolutely fantastic. So what is the size? 40?
I believe they are 40 millimeters. Yes.
40? Okay, perfect.
All right, so I'm going to pull up your pick for me for the sub 1,000. Tell me and everybody else why you picked this watch, why you think this would be good for me at sub $1,000. And should be up. Go.
Okay, so let's talk about the negatives first and foremost, because I know a lot of people, especially with Seikos, are very, very focused with the specifics. So negatives: this does not have a sapphire crystal, and it has the 4R caliber. Now that we have that out of the way, this is one of the best looking Seikos I've ever seen in my life, period. And the reason why I chose it for you is I know you love the Rolex Explorer. I know you love a smaller watch, which this one comes in at 39 millimeters. Now that we've been friends for a while, I kind of know your taste, and something deep down inside me, like, I was like, oh, this is something Guy would absolutely love. I know you would change the movement. You're not a big fan of the 4R caliber, and I know you would prefer sapphire, but looking at this as a relaxed everyday watch that you don't have to worry too much about, because under $1,000 you can pick it up for like 700. It's a lot of money, but it's not so much that if anything happens to it, you're going to be out of a home, you know.
Sure.
And it is, the main reason I chose it is Rolex Explorer-ish, but has a very unique and distinct look to it. And one really cool thing about this, so this is a limited edition. You can still get it from Japanese sellers. And one guy here in Florida, which I almost bought it from him, but he refused to answer my emails for some reason. But the best thing about this is that it is sold out. And when you get it, it's kind of special. Like, I feel like you being a YouTuber, and I know this sounds weird, but I feel like you have to have that watch that's iconic to you. You know, there's a lot of YouTubers that have watches that's iconic to them. So I feel like this has enough personality that will do it so well for you. Size is perfect, and I think it looks incredible in terms of design.
I think stylistically, the overall look of it, the feel of it, I think you absolutely nailed it with this pick. I do think it looks awesome. But like you said, a 4-hour movement in a $800, $900 watch, man, like I don't think I could actually put my money in it. If this was a $350 or $400 watch, I would be all over it. It's got like that vibe of if like the Explorer and the Hamilton Khaki Field and the Seiko Sarb 033 and the Alpinist all had some sort of weird like offspring, and like this is what was born, and the dial, the handset, the overall size and scale and shape of it was like it was made for me. But man, that price point for the actual technology that you're getting is rough, right? Like that's the only downside to it.
And I knew you were going to say that, and I struggled with this as well. I've been looking for this for a very long time. I tried to buy it from Japan. For some reason, the sale always falls through somehow, right? Like the most recent one, if you guys want to pick it up, it's on eBay. But like for the most recent one, I've been communicating back and forth with the seller for so long. Once I was ready to pull the trigger, he was gone. Same happened with the Japanese seller. My one reservation was the movement and the crystal, and I wish Seiko did not make this limited edition. This is such a winning design. In my opinion, the best Seiko, at least everyday watch Seiko they've ever made. In my opinion, better looking than the Alpinist, better looking than, well, their new Alpinist, the one without the compass and with the compass, better looking than honestly any Seiko I've seen in the everyday category. But they could have put a 6R at least. Not even even if it was the old 6R15 with the 50-hour power reserve, and I think they could have technically put a sapphire, but because of the way the crystal is domed, I'm gonna forgive it.
I don't hate the crystal. I'm okay with things that are like kind of classic, old school, vintage looking Histolite crystals on the Speedmaster and whatnot. I don't hate that at all. That's not the problem for me. It's really the price for the movement and what you're getting. It seems high.
Yeah, so from experience and speaking with sellers, you can get this for like 600, which is about 200 or 150 more than you're willing to spend. But for the design,
that's not bad. At 600, it's not bad.
It's not bad. I think you would do it if like you looked at it enough. But the design of this watch is the biggest mistake Seiko has ever done, because it is so perfect in my eyes. And then typical Seiko fashion, they made it a limited edition.
Right.
You know? So
well, I think you picked a really good one for the sub $1,000 category. I like that pick a lot. Let's move on to 10,000. So this is my pick for you for your collection at $10,000. And I know this isn't the perfect watch for you, but I'm going to tell you why I think it might be a really good choice for you. This is operating under the assumption, like we talked about earlier in the stream, that you want to maybe sell your Submariner. So number one, you got to have a Rolex in your collection. I'm sorry, we're not allowed to be friends anymore if you sell that Submariner and don't get another Rolex in your collection. Number two, I know that you have family abroad in different parts of the world, so having something like a GMT makes a lot of sense. I know you like the world time better, but if you were going to just own one GMT or world time watch, I feel like the Rolex GMT Master is the one to have. And maybe it's not the Pepsi. Maybe it's the Batman, like you had mentioned earlier. Either one is fine. Now, retail price on the, since you can't get a Batman at retail anymore, I didn't include that in this one. And I snuck this in here because technically retail price is under $10,000. But as you noticed in my little graphic here, good luck finding it for that. So I kind of cheated in that you're probably not going to find one for 10 grand. But if you could, I think this is your second of 3 watches at the price point of 10K or under.
So I think the choice is awesome, but as you mentioned, I would go with the Batman. There's just something about the Pepsi configuration. I've experienced it with the SKX. I've experienced it with old vintage Rolex GMT Masters. Pepsi just isn't my thing. The blue and red color scheme, and you know, maybe it has to do with my superhero choices. I hated Superman and I hated Spider-Man. You know, so the colors remind me of them. But I would choose the Batman, so you're not far off. Let's just change it to a Batman, and I'm happy with it. Go ahead and buy it for me.
Oh, I already did. It's actually on the way to your house.
Oh,
So,
thanks. Appreciate it.
here's a good comment from Random Rob. LOL. Good luck. Yeah, like I said, like you're not gonna find it for that price, but if you could, then yeah, that would be my pick for you. And like I said, a Batman would be acceptable. Except I don't think you're gonna find a Batman. Period. Like you could maybe like bribe the right authorized dealer and get this for retail, but Batmans are all gone, so it's gonna be hard. That said, let's go on to your pick for me at a price of plus or minus 10K. Which one was up? Here it is. I found it. So let me share that. And by the way, Random Rob in the comments there, you guys obviously all know his channel, but thanks for joining us today, Rob. Nice to see you here. And here is your pick for me. Now, I feel like you kind of cheated a little bit on this one because I do technically have a Submariner in my collection, just not this one. But go ahead and give me your spiel. Give me your spiel on why this is my watch for 10K.
So if you guys watch our live streams, you know, the previous live streams, I'm recognizing a lot of faces. If you guys know our live stream, you know that I always cheat in games. I am a sore loser. But I was thinking to myself, look, guy cannot have a collection without a Rolex sub. And since I set the rule and I want to break it, that we're not allowed to choose watches from the same watch, technically I'm not breaking any rules, right? You get the new 41mm case, you get the new movement, slimmer case, you know, and it has a different reference number, which is very important, you know.
Yeah, but let's catch everyone up because a few people have joined the stream since we started this little game. Here's the game that we're doing, so if you guys aren't aware, AB is picking 3 watches for me as a 3-watch collection, and I'm picking 3 watches for him. One watch has to be $1,000 or less. One watch has to be $10,000 and less, and the final watch can be any price. The sky is the limit. So this is AB's pick for me at the 10,000 and less, just to get everyone caught up if you're just joining the stream here. Now, as far as, yeah, I can't imagine, you know, unless like I fall on some really hard times, not having quote unquote a Submariner in my collection. I mean, I have my Submariner. I'm wearing it today as we speak. I don't think I'd ever sell that watch, but in the event that I didn't have that watch, then yeah, obviously this is a no-brainer choice. I do like the new movement. I haven't seen it in person to really compare the way the profile of the case is. I don't dislike the fat lugs on my watch, so that's not a reason why I would go out and buy one. Nor is the current case design necessarily a reason on why I wouldn't buy that one if I was in the market, though. And yeah, a great but kind of low-hanging fruit, obvious choice for you to throw at me.
So here's the thing. When I first saw this, I thought to myself, you know, guy wouldn't go crazy over this for one big reason. And tell me if I'm wrong. It's not 39mm. Like if they had just made this, every change that they made, but in 39mm, I think you would have been in trouble, personally.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, and I had mentioned this in another video, and I know it's technically not 41 millimeters, but they do on their website. They say it's 41 millimeters. They're marketing it as 41 millimeters. And the idea that they raised the size up just tweaks my obsessive compulsive disorder or whatever it is that I have. I don't have OCD for real, and not to minimize people that do suffer from that affliction. I have at least a twinge of it though. And when I see that, it kind of is like, oh, why did they have to do that? Why couldn't they figure out a way? I guess they did make the bracelet 21 millimeters between the lugs though. And that is, I mean, I'm not going to call it a deal breaker, but that feels like a bad decision. It's like totally off base with tradition. And of course, if you want to try to put it on a rubber strap or a leather strap or NATOs or anything else, you know, like it's just another monkey wrench in it. And those little things that they did do kind of bug me about it a little bit. So I'm sure if I saw one in person, I'd be like, this is beautiful. I love it. Whatever. Like that doesn't matter. Because it's not like I take my current Submariner off of the stainless steel bracelet all that often anyway. So,
you know, the biggest flaw with the 41 millimeter case, the biggest flaw is for people, at least this is for watch nerds, right? For people who care. It is so inaccurate to Rolex's history with the sub. And that was the biggest selling point, at least for me, for the sub. It is historical. They did the right upgrades and everything. The size, the 40 millimeter size is basically unchanged. I know they had a smaller sub. I can't remember the case size, but basically that 40 millimeter size has been iconic to the sub. And even though as watch geeks and crazy watch nerds, we care, I know most people won't. I don't like the fact that they made it 41 millimeter. It's not accurate to the history of the sub. And it was kind of unnecessary. The watch was going to wear perfectly if they kept it at 40, you know, or even 39. But that's just my opinion.
I think originally it was 38 millimeters, but it has been 40 since, I don't know. I looked it up a while ago, actually, 1960s, 1970s, something like that. Now, technically, this new watch isn't 41 millimeters. It's 40.6 or 40.7 or something. And technically, the old one isn't 40 millimeters either. If you measure it really closely, it's probably more like 40.1 or 40.2 or something. So we are splitting hairs almost literally when we're talking about this. But just knowing, like in my mind, that they call it a 41 millimeter case, like it just feels like it's a break in tradition. And I'm all about like tradition and heritage and all of that stuff. That's what's appealing to me. It's like, it just seems like a change for the sake of change, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. But let's move on to the next watch, which you chose for me.
All right, so this is the final selection in the 3-watch collection where I pick 3 watches for AB. And for this third watch, price did not matter. So I went a little bit apeshit. Here it is, coming up. One sec. I gotta pull the picture up. It's a pain to do this through the internet browser, but it is a datograph, but not just any datograph. It is a gold datograph with a pink gold dial featuring chronograph complications, moon phase, perpetual calendar, and a tourbillon movement with a retail price of 285,000 euros, which works out to roughly 345,000 US dollars. But we said there was no restrictions on which watch we could put into this category. And I know a few things about AB. First of all, I know he likes interesting dials. And I don't know if you own or have ever really owned a salmon kind of pink dial, but I think you would like that. I think you would really like the movement, the decoration, the tourbillon. The cool thing is the tourbillon doesn't poke through the front. I don't really like tourbillons that show through the dial. It just feels like a cheap open heart watch to me a little bit. I know it's a tourbillon. It's supposed to be a big deal, but that it has a tourbillon and it's only visible through the back is really cool. Beautiful decoration, beautiful finishing on the movement. It's a Lange, and I know you love that brand. So this is the watch that I chose for you at any price point, no holds barred, no restrictions.
I can't complain. Honestly, I can't complain. I am a big fan of Lange, and without us discussing it, my favorite Lange is the datograph. The datograph. The problem with your choice is you chose the hardest, the second hardest datograph to get in the world. Actually, it might be the hardest datograph to get. The second being the triple split. But you not only chose one of the most expensive watches in Lange's catalog, you also chose the hardest to get.
I
But
felt like I had to go big or go home though. So, you know.
you made my choice very like I'm very embarrassed with my choice. Like I don't know how we're gonna follow up with this one. I might have to change it midstream, but I love this watch. It's a work of art. This is something where you have everything in life. You have everything you need in life, and you have extra cash laying around. Specifically, $345,000 just burning a hole in your pocket. You know, as normal people usually have. Um, this would be the holy grail of watches. Like the
No, I'm gonna be
datograph.
honest. When I picked this watch, because I don't really look at really like watches that are outside of the realm of possibility for me to even
Mhm,
like pretend that someday I might get one. I don't really pay attention to them that closely. It'd be like me looking at like, you know, $1 million supercars and being like, oh, I want to
mm,
get one of these someday. Like, no, that's never going to happen. I feel the same
mhm,
way about watches too. When it's so far outside of the realm of possibility, I don't pay attention to them that closely. So when
mhm,
I picked this watch for you, I was not basing it on difficulty, popularity, or availability at all. So I'm actually a little surprised that you tell me that this is one of maybe the second most difficult Langes to get or datagraphs
mhm.
to get or whatever. So I did
It
not know
is
that when I picked this.
so it is, I think, the hardest because of the salmon dial. Similar to the 15202 salmon dial, it came out when salmon dials were very, very hot, so it sold out very fast. Similar to the datograph triple split, which I would put them side by side. I can't really tell you which one is harder to get or which one is more popular. Both of them are insane watches. The triple split, especially, is one of the best watches I've ever seen in my life. The triple split was the Germans basically telling the Swiss that they're sick and tired of waiting for them to innovate. Here is something that you will pretty much, like, by the time you reach us, it'll be 10, 20 years from now, you know? But the fact that you chose this, I think if I ever had this money, I would definitely get this as the holy grail datograph. The more realistic datograph that I would ever get in my life would probably be the datograph perpetual, um, which is not crazy realistic, but you know what I mean, compared to the
Yeah.
$345,000, you know. But it is the perfect choice. Now, show my choice, which basically is dwarfed by the stupid datograph that you had to choose.
That's not a bad choice. I like your pick here, but let me pull it up. It is Chopard 1860. Tell us about this watch and why you picked this one as my third watch in a 3-watch collection at price above $10,000.
Okay. Slight bit more context. If I knew he was going to choose the datograph, this wouldn't have been what I chose for him. But now that we're forced to, I guess here's what I'm going to tell you about Chopard. Chopard 1860. The reason why I chose it, first of all, Chopard, as you can tell by the name, was founded in 1860. They have two lines. They have the Chopard, then they have something called Chopard LUC. Very important distinction. This is from the LUC line. Basically, the LUC line has high horology, impeccable movements. Some watchmakers regard it as one of the best automatic movements at its price point. It has a micro rotor, and I wish I sent you the picture of the movement because that is the big selling point. You look at the dial, it looks really good, but it's nothing compared to the movement powering it. And this choice, I have three reasons why I picked the Chopard 1860. The caliber 96, a high horology movement, period. Like it is a high horology movement for way under $10,000. The fact that you can get this piece for around $5,000-$6,000 is ridiculous, and it kind of proves that the watch market doesn't make any sense, right? Patek Nautilus, which in my opinion, the finishing on the movement of the Chopard is on par with the Nautilus. Nautilus trading for $140,000, this one for $5,000. So the reason why I chose this, I wanted to force you to get something kind of high horology and get you out of your comfort zone.
I think it's a good choice, actually. I like this watch, and I'm not really like a dressy watch on leather kind of person. I don't know if I would be qualified as strictly as a dress watch because it has a date complication and whatnot. But for that style of watch, I think this is a fantastic choice, and I'm actually like interested to learn more about the Chopard brand because it's never really been on my radar before.
And that's the big problem is you have to research Chopard LUC. LUC is that is where they make the most impeccable watches. While the Caliber 96 is an incredible movement, I would not go as far as to say it's Lange finishing, level, but it is high horology finishing. The movement is beautiful. If you can pull it up, you'll see for yourself. And it's a good way for me to, when I'm thinking about you, you're a simple guy. You like simple watches. So this is the perfect balance of a nice high horology movement with a simple dial with a date that makes it a bit more casual. I think you could even wear this with a very simple rubber strap. You can wear it with a NATO, but highly recommend you don't do that because you're going to cover the beautiful movement.
Yeah.
But it can work as a daily piece that you're not going to beat up. I can see you wearing this just hanging out and stuff, wanting to admire watches, mechanical watches. So I think this is the perfect choice for you. Doesn't break the bank. You get to enter high horology at under $10,000. Very, very few brands actually offer that kind of finishing at this price point. The only other person I can think of is Glasuta Original.
Yeah, I've looked at quite a few of their watches in the last I don't know, year and a half or so, and that's really an underappreciated brand, which is a whole discussion that we could probably have for an hour long. But yeah, I'm surprised that they don't get as much recognition, considering how nice their watches are.
I agree, but that is the world of this weird hobby that we are in. Watches that make no sense are trading for over $100,000. Terrible bracelets. I'm looking at you, Nautilus. And then you have watches like this, and watches from Glasuta. You have watches from JLC and brands like that. That I guess it's a good thing, right? For us as watch nerds and watch collectors, at least for me personally, I like the fact that people don't know about these watches. You know why? Because I can get them at good prices.
Yeah, they're still available without wait lists and high aftermarket price scalping and whatnot. So yeah, it's being like Wayne Gretzky used to say, go where the puck is going to be. Like you're ahead of the puck. You're ahead of the curve. You're ahead of everybody else. Looking at these brands before they become popular, because as long as the economy doesn't just get destroyed or whatever, eventually I think some of these brands are going to become more popular, more in demand, and if you're in on the ground floor, you're doing better than everybody else.
And that's been my game, not my game. Like, I've been really trying my best to try to read the market. I've mentioned this before. I have a passion for watches, but my passion for the watch market is exceeding my passion for watches. Like, I am so insanely interested to learn how to read this watch market. What makes specific things blow up. The biggest anomaly for me is the FP Journe. And there's a few watches that I've spoken about that luckily I just saw a few patterns that were similar to what happened with FP Journe, and it happened with a few other watches. I just mentioned it in a post today, the Cartier Monopusher or the AP Perpetual Calendar from the 1970s, or specific watches that nobody was looking at 2-3 years from now. There's a specific pattern in the watch market that happens, and the day somebody's able to read it, and a lot of people can. For example, you have the guy from A Collected Man. The guy from A Collected Man is a wizard. He was looking at watches that literally no one in the entire industry was looking at. Roger Dubuis chronographs from from, I can't remember the year, but he was looking at Roger Dubuis chronographs. He was looking at the Cartier monopusher. He was looking at even Frank Mueller chronographs, and those watches exploded out of nowhere. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I just think it's super interesting.
There's a comment here, and I want to see what your thoughts are on this because I'm not super familiar with the brand. But Rod asks, "Hi, horology. What are your thoughts on the Girard Perregaux Laureato?" And for people that aren't familiar with that, I brought up the website because I've only ever seen one Girard Perregaux, and it was very nice. But I'm not super familiar with their brand. So here are from the GP website, the Laureato brand. I don't know, or Laureato line. I don't know which one he's talking about specifically, but I'm sure you know more about these watches certainly than I do. So, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, I've experienced the Laureato. Absolutely love it. Almost bought it 3 times, which is the most recent one. I almost bought the limited edition 100 pieces Onyx dial, which is the one you're looking at right now, actually, surprisingly. My problem with the Laureato is the bracelet, and I'll explain. I love the design. The movement is, as you mentioned, high horology finishing. The Laureato has such a powerful history behind it that nobody can call it a copy of the Royal Oak. I'm sorry, if you call it the copy of a Royal Oak, then you're not doing enough research. My problem is I don't like the polished center links. And that is the one thing that stopped me from buying this watch. It is a great watch, and if you guys buy it, you're getting an incredible watch that could technically compete with the Vacheron Overseas and the Patek Nautilus and so on of the world. I just personally, when I saw the watch, the polished center links ruined it for me. That's very simple answer.
What do you think? And here's a comment from Dale. I owned one, great AP alternative.
I agree. Fantastic watch. Only thing is you don't get AP vibes with this watch. If anything, it's a great Nautilus alternative because AP, the brushing and the finishing on the bracelet makes it unique to any of the other competition. That's why I don't think there's any real proper Royal Oak alternative. I will say it is a better alternative to the Patek Nautilus, especially if you're trying to save about $100,000. You can get this one, and in my opinion, it is a better watch.
Quick shout out before we go on. Speaking of Dale, Dale is he's a good guy. He sponsored some videos of mine in the past. This video obviously isn't sponsored, but I just want to let people know he has a website called watchtowear.com. I threw the link in the live chat there, and yeah, it's a really nice website. It's a watch dealing, selling, buying thingy. Check it out. If you're not familiar with it, everybody knows Chrono 24. If you're looking for some sort of alternative to that, just to see what else is out there, check out Dale's website. Nice guy, nice website. So yeah, just a quick shout out for him. That said, 1 hour, 3 minutes into the live stream, that was all of our prepared topics. Actually, wait, I do have one other thing.
Oh no.
Normally on the show, we would do little games, right? Like one of the games we do is called Fill in the Blank, where we would say something, something, something blank, and then we would have to complete the sentence, basically. So I'm going to let AB complete this sentence. The new Omega Speedmaster is blank.
Boring.
Let's complete our live stream today with this topic. The new Omega Speedmaster is, in your opinion, boring. Okay. I'm going to also answer it. The new Omega Speedmaster is hit and miss. That's how I would complete that sentence.
I think you're trying to make some controversy because after this we're gonna be like, oh, he called the Speedmaster boring. Yeah, you know what? It is boring. Okay. There's literally very few. You know what made it boring? Before we continue this game, really quick, what made it boring is that everybody pretty much predicted exactly what happened, right? Can we say that the reason it was boring is everybody already knew we were gonna get a new movement, a slightly different case, and a new bracelet. And that's what we got. So I think that's why it was boring.
I'm going to say, first of all, I agree with you on those points. Not that it necessarily is boring. It's just more of the same. And that's not necessarily bad. But I'm going to say it's hit and miss. The new Omega Speedmaster is hit and miss because they did some things well. Some of the updates they did are nice. Like the bracelet has got a real nice taper to it. But what were they thinking by putting another 0 micro adjust clasp on a frickin' Speedmaster? So there's a lot of videos out right now. I haven't seen one in person yet. I imagine I will probably get in touch with the guys over at Exquisite Timepieces and see if I can borrow one once they're in stock regularly, and I'll do a video on it. But a lot of people are making videos saying, like, I went and saw them in the store. I've got one already. And they're saying that they're uncomfortable to wear. They're saying that the edges of the case and the edges of the bracelet are overly crisp. Like, one guy was like, you could shave with this thing. It's so sharp. This was a problem that I had with my Rolex Explorer. If you guys remember, I bought that Explorer and I was like, man, I cannot get a comfortable fit on this watch. The reason why is because the edges of the case were crisp, although I think that, somebody mentioned Timeless Watch Channel had mentioned it. I think he was being a little bit hyperbolic by saying you could like shave with it or whatever. Like my Explorer wasn't that sharp. The problem is without good micro adjustment, as your wrist gets warm and sweaty and swells up like it does in Florida all the time, those crisper edges do get incredibly irritating and uncomfortable. So if the Speedmaster is like the Explorer was in terms of how crisp the edges are, and that the watch has no on-the-fly toolless adjustment, like that's going to be a huge problem. But not only is that a huge problem, on my old Speedmaster, what I did was I upgraded the clasp to a Seamaster toolless adjustment clasp. But since they tapered the bracelet on the new Speedmaster so much, that clasp will never fit on that bracelet. There's not going to be an official Omega OEM part that you could put on the watch. So you're just going to be stuck with that, I'm going to say it, I'm sorry, garbage clasp on what is otherwise an amazing bracelet. And the clasp looks like it's nicely finished and it looks like it's machined in high quality. But you know what? I have a $250 Hamilton, which has a really nicely machined high quality clasp as well. Unfortunately, it also only has 2 micro adjustment holes and you need a tool to use it.
And both of them are ran by the Swatch Group.
Yeah, no surprise there, right?
But let me add to that. A long time ago, I had defended Omega, and I want to retract my defense because I thought they were going in the right direction, but they just couldn't help it. They were itching. They're like, oh, we got to do limited editions again. Oh, we can't do this anymore. Then they started doing the limited editions again and ruined their brand once again when they were very close to fixing their brand. The James Bond 007 not being limited edition, the 321 not being limited edition. And I wish they stopped with the stupid limited editions. And if I worked at Rolex marketing, here's what I would have done to make the Speedmaster release a lot
Omega
better.
Marketing.
Omega marketing. My first thing that I would have done, and I know it sounds stupid, but I would have added a blue Speedmaster, non-limited edition, a nice dark navy blue Omega Speedmaster, and a white dial Speedmaster similar to the one that was very popular in the Italian market, that are non-limited, stainless steel, and it gives something a little bit different to an otherwise almost identical Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch. I know the argument will be, well, it's not original to the original design. The original design was black dial, blah, blah, blah. They're just trying to stay true to their heritage. No, Omega threw that true to our heritage thing out the window a long time ago with the millions of limited editions. Fix your brand, add a little bit more color, similar to what Tudor did with their Black Bay Navy. People thought, hey, the people at their marketing team at Tudor didn't have to do anything. They just had to sit there. They're like, look, here's what we'll do. People went crazy over the Black Bay 58. Let's do something crazy. Let's give them a blue one. That's all they did. And it exploded. And if Omega had just done something so similar, they don't even have to give us a crazy color. A navy blue Speedmaster, a white dial Speedmaster that's in stainless steel and regular production For the
Well,
love
no,
of God,
they're
right?
gonna give you a white dial Speedmaster, but they're gonna put Snoopy on it. They're gonna make 30 of them, and they're gonna go on the secondary market for $50,000 a piece.
Well,
That's what Omega's gonna do.
well, they did. They did a white Omega Speedmaster, without the Snoopy actually, and they did it in white gold, I believe, or platinum. I don't know. I didn't. I just hated it so much. I didn't really look at it. But it was like platinum or white gold because I was so happy. I thought it was stainless steel. That's why I didn't bother to look. But it was either platinum, white gold, cost about $38,000, and it is not consumer friendly like the regular Speedmaster.
Yeah.
Why can't they do that? Why do they have to do all these limited editions when they almost fix the brand and give us a regular production, hard to get? Make it hard to get. I don't care if you take a page out of Rolex's book and make it hard to get, similar to what you did with the 321 and the Omega Seamaster James Bond. But why couldn't they do that? They just had to give us an basically exactly the same thing, except with a newer movement, which is a big deal, I guess. And it's just the same watch. That's what I would have done if I was working at Omega.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm conflicted. Like I really enjoyed my Speedmaster, and I wish that I didn't sell it, but I needed the money. It is what it is. It had to go. Will I ever replace it? I mean, not with this new one. Not if I can't have an adjustable clasp on it. Like I have no interest in spending big money on watches that aren't comfortable. Yeah, I'm conflicted with them. It's weird that they don't listen to consumers and what consumers want. Maybe I don't know. Am I an exception? Am I the only person that wants like toolless adjustment on every watch over $2,000? Basically, like if it doesn't have a glide lock style clasp, you're doing it wrong. That's my opinion.
I mean, there's no reason for them not to make it comfortable, right? I can't imagine it being a ridiculous cost on the brand that they decide not to do it. I'm sure, I mean, they did reduce cost, but it's not something so significant that they can't give it. Then again, similar to Rolex, the regular watch enthusiast is not their primary, like the regular crazy watch collectors, that all the little details that matter to us. The thing is, the regular buyer doesn't even know what a micro adjust is. You know what I mean?
Here's the problem though. You could look at a micro brand like Monta. Have you've looked at Monta's watches before? They sell I don't know what they go for, 16, 18, 2,000, somewhere in that ballpark, $1,600, $2,000, depending on the watch. I mean, yeah, it uses the Solita movement, but otherwise, every bit as nice as a lot of Omega watches in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? For a whole heck of a lot less money. And they say, hey, it's $1,600, $1,700, $1,800, $1,900 watch. It should have micro adjust. And boom, you got glide lock style clasp. Again, Solita movement. I don't care about that. I like Solita movements. I like ETA movements. Like, makes the watch cheaper and it's a good movement. So whatever. That's not a problem. But when you're talking about spending $2,000, there's also this isn't a shot at Monta because I think they make great watches, but people like brand recognition. You know what I mean? Like some people will only buy a Ford or only buy a Chevy or only buy a Toyota for the rest of their lives. Some people will only play Fender guitars for the rest of their lives. Some people will only connect on almost a spiritual level with certain brands. And you have these micro brands that make amazing watches like Monta, and another brand to mention that makes amazing watches for the price point, Oris, which isn't technically a micro brand, but nevertheless, they make great watches. Those brands don't connect with me in a way that a brand like Seiko might, or a brand like Rolex might, or a brand like Omega might, or a brand like Hamilton does. So yeah, that, I don't know, that's a tangent, I guess. But when I look at other brands doing better things that a brand like Omega does, and I'm such a huge fan of that brand, it really kind of makes me a little disappointed and a little depressed that, like, it seems like they don't care about their customer. They're just like, oh, we can save $12 if we don't put this feature in this watch, so we're gonna do it.
I 100% agree. And back to your brand recognition thing, that's why I love some watch marketing, and that's why I despise some. For example, like you said, Chopard LUC, for example, there's not the brand recognition behind it, that nobody's looking at it, And if you're not going to have proper brand recognition, I suppose, you need to have really good marketing that you're connecting with collectors and consumers at a more personal level, right? If you don't have the brand recognition of Rolex and Omega, what's the other way you can get this person to love your brand? Do something personal, you know. If you go to a JLC factory tour, assuming you ever go, they do their best there. Like I've seen enough factory tours that they do their best there to, you know what, forget JLC for a second, Langa. If you go to Alanganzuna, and I know I'm a big fan, but for example, the engraving on your movement, you know that if you go to Langa, they will look at the engraving and tell you exactly the person who engraved that that part of the watch for you, and they will get the engraver and have that person talk to you and explain to you what their mindset was like, what they were thinking, blah blah blah, and just speak with you on a more personal level, right?
Sure.
For someone like you who, you know, I'm assuming you don't look at Langa that much. If you were ever invited to a factory tour, right, and then you have some of that
I don't think that's gonna happen, but
but
okay, if
but
it ever
but
happens.
let's assume, if you have all those like personal like experiences and like you get this like, wow, this brand is incredible, you're more than likely going to be looking at Langa in a different light. You know what I mean? The problem with a brand like Monta, they create great watches, but like you said, they haven't really done much, you know, to like they don't have brand recognition, and in my opinion, they haven't really done much to like solidify themselves as a proper alternative, for example, to Omega.
You're talking about Monta?
Monta, for example, or
The,
other brands, you know.
the thing about Monta, and again, I think that I've looked at two of their watches now, the diver and the kind of almost field watch. I forget the names of them. They're relevant. Super impressed with the quality of those watches. The thing is, I think the only marketing they do is reach out to people on YouTube. Like they're literally, hey, review this watch for us. And like I've never seen an ad for a Monta watch anywhere. I've never like you probably could go ask 1,000 people, and 1,000 out of 1,000 would be like, I never heard of it. And yeah, they're not creating that brand awareness that they really should be, because it is a phenomenal product.
I agree. And here's the thing, nothing wrong with being a small brand and not having the marketing capability, right? But in the same time, when you don't have that marketing capability, let's be real here, you're not going to have the brand recognition that Omega and Rolex and, you know, other people do. You can't fault a brand like Monta for that. You can fault brands like Longines, for example, you know, who have Swatch Group behind them. You can't fault people like JLC, for example. Keep in mind, I love JLC. I love them to death. They're my favorite, one of my favorite watch brands. But their marketing, I can happily say, horrible, absolutely terrible, non-existent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with a brand like Monta, they're forgivable. With other brands, I don't think they have an excuse.
All right. Well, let me take a look at a couple of comments here, because I've been ignoring it because this has been an interesting conversation. And then we probably wrap this one up. I'm guessing you got some stuff to do tonight. But we're an hour and 18 minutes into it. First of all, thanks to everybody that has tuned in. I think we had 115 or so people here at one point. We still got 84 guys watching, so that's awesome. Underachieving watch collector says Omega just can't help themselves, in reference to our discussion we were having a little while ago. And yeah, like especially when it comes to making limited edition watches, it's like there's math there, right? And they're like, oh, we could make 10,000 or 2,000 or 800 or whatever that number is of these watches with this much profit margin. We know we'll sell every one because it says limited edition. Like it's a cash grab. This is, I guess, what I'm getting at. Straight up cash grab. Craig G says they have other white dial speedies, but they aren't professionals. And I don't know, does that matter? Like,
it doesn't, because my point was with the Moonwatch. The Moonwatch has the marketing chops behind it, whereas the regular Speedmasters don't. So when you're releasing a new Speedmaster, you have the marketing potential to make it great or to make it meh. and in my opinion, they met it, if that's even a word.
Eric says, sold my Speedy because it stopped. I kept stopping because I was forgetting to manage it. Oh, that's good stuff right there. Craig G. I'm with you. Butterfly clasp should be banned on watches above $1,500. I can't believe it's still a thing. Like, I mean, here's the crazy thing. Seiko puts out like that 62 MAS reissue limited edition for like $6,000, and the bracelet on that thing is like a $500 sumo bracelet. Like the whole watch, like a Seiko Sumo for that you could buy for $500 or $600. It's virtually the same bracelet that they're putting on the $6,000 limited edition watch. Seiko screwed the pooch so hard on their 62 Moss reissues, and I've talked about this in the past, that like that watch, they should have gone the extra mile on it, put an amazing bracelet on it, just did the best possible finishing they could, and they would have literally have had a Submariner and a Seamaster competitor. Like, that's the problem with Seiko. They don't have any icons, and we could say, okay, Grand Seiko Snowflake, kind of an icon, I guess, but literally that's it. I mean, they don't have like a Sub, a GMT, a Speedmaster, a Seamaster. When you say Grand Seiko or Seiko, you're saying SPB 0149 or SARB 033. You know what I mean? Like, that is a huge marketing mistake that they're making.
I agree, and that's always been my problem with Seiko and Grand Seiko. I don't know why they can't make a proper bracelet. Dude, your watches, the finishing on your watches sometimes embarrasses watches that I review that are $20, $30, $40, $50,000, and your Grand Seiko is $5,000. But whoever's in your bracelet department is, I don't know what's happening. They're just getting from the old Seiko archives and making it slightly better, you know? I can't think of a proper like comparison, but you can't make such a phenomenal watch and then relatively whatever bracelet on it. You just ruined it. I mean, you didn't ruin it, but it just you were there. You know what I mean? It's like being in a race, and then right before the finish line, you're just like, you know what? I don't want. I just gotta go grab a hot dog. Those look really delicious.
Yeah. Eddie Vega mentions he just got an SPB 143 from Exquisite Timepieces, and he really likes it. And I don't know if you were around, Eddie, at the beginning of the stream, but I was telling AB, we were telling each other which watches we should get for a collection. I said he should get one of those as his kind of quote unquote more affordable diver for a 3-watch collection. I mean, they're not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. It's still a chunk of money, but if you're looking for a nice looking diver under $1,000 or whatever they go for, like, yeah, great watch. I got to take a ride over to Exquisite Timepieces. It's literally 4 miles from my house, and I haven't been over there in like 4 months.
Just walk there.
I could almost walk there. I got to take a ride over there and see what they got in stock, because I want to see that watch.
Can I so I want to respond to Craig G when he said, if they can't keep up the demand of Monta, do they really need to have a big marketing? Technically correct, but I can't imagine Monta selling the amount that they could be potentially selling, right? Because if they can't keep up with demand, keep in mind, I don't know their sales, but that doesn't mean they sold 100,000 watches in the last year. That could be either restriction from their suppliers.
Is that true? Can they not keep up with demand? I mean, I haven't tried to buy one. Are they out of stock, or what's the deal?
I don't know. I mean, I was supposed to review a Monta a few times, but I've just been super busy. I haven't thought about buying one except when they came out with the Noble, the white dial. I still might buy it. If they cannot keep up with demand, as Craig mentioned, in my opinion, that doesn't mean much in the micro brand space as it would in the bigger luxury watch world, right? The Omega Speedmaster 321, they can't keep up demand. But what that does in the market is very different from Monta not being able to keep up demand. You know what I mean? Not to mention, as I said, not being able to keep up with the demand doesn't mean they're selling 100,000 watches a year. That could be done internally for marketing purposes to make their watches more desirable, which is very smart as a micro brand owner. As a watch purchaser, obviously, I would hate that. But if you own a brand, like Monta, and you're doing that artificially, making the watches not producing so many, you're doing your brand a favor. If they can't actually keep up with demand because of their production, it doesn't mean they're having hundreds and thousands of people buying their watches. It just means that their company, whoever they're outsourcing the parts from, can't keep up with the specific number that they've been selling. Doesn't mean it's a significant number.
Sure. Craig here answered my question, saying that some are out of stock, doesn't know about all models. Thomas Lynn says, you're going to have to go back, Tom. He says, if you guys had $30,000, you could only have 3 watches, what would you get, pre-owned or new? We literally went through this discussion almost verbatim. Probably at about the 28 to 30 minute mark of this live stream, AB picked 3 watches for me. I picked 3 watches for AB, and we built 3 watch collections for each other, with the stipulations that one watch had to be under $1,000, one watch had to be under $10,000, and one watch could be any price. So if you weren't here for that part of the live stream, we're going to wrap this up soon. Go back to the earlier part of the episode, and we more or less covered that exact question. And it was a lot of fun. We had a good discussion there. SMTS says, I love my snowflake. That's it. I'm putting my snowflake on now. And I think earlier we were talking about Speedmaster maybe, and he was like, I'm putting my Speedmaster on now. I saw that comment.
I haven't seen him put on a Rolex Sub, so
James Duffy, good discussion. Thanks, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us, James. Always nice to have you here. So we're gonna wrap this up. It's 1 hour 27 minutes in it into the stream. I'll leave the floor open to AB if you have any closing thoughts or comments that you would like to share with everybody. Of course, you guys all know the Watch Collecting Strategy channel, but if by some chance you're not already subscribed to him, there should be a link to his channel down in the description. Click on that, go subscribe. And you got any final thoughts?
So honestly, I was very excited to do this. Like I said in the beginning of the stream, for anybody that missed it, it brought a weird kind of nostalgia to me. During the beginning of the pandemic, when me and you were doing this, it's kind of a memory that I won't really forget. It was so fun. And I feel like a lot of people really loved the fact that we were doing this during when everybody was in lockdown and so on. And I felt like it was really special. And when we stopped kind of doing it for a while,
would you say that it was a pandemic special? Did you see that episode Did you see that episode of South Park?
I did not, but but it was technically a pandemic special, and honestly, it is really fun, and I'm really happy to get to talk to everybody unscripted. You get to see me and your real passion for watches unscripted, and hopefully with the coming days we can do this a bit more often. I really do have so much fun doing this. Even if we're not going to keep it on permanent channels, we can do this, then delete it in the future. Who cares? It's just fun for me and you. Not to mention, you already know this, but I'm cameraless for about 2 weeks, so I'm going to be itching.
This could be your outlet to do something over the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to rope you into at least one more live stream over the next couple of weeks. As Six Killer asks, awesome live stream. Thanks, man. We appreciate that. And he says, are we going to have another one down the road? So yeah, I think the fact that you are cameraless for a week or two might be a good excuse to do another live stream next week.
I think so. Not even, because technically the end of the week. Yeah, I'm down. We can probably do 2 or 3 even next week. Take advantage of the fact that I have no camera and I'm itching to talk about watches, but I just don't have a camera right now. For those wondering, I will have a camera. It's just temporary that I don't have a camera, but I am totally down. Even after I get the camera, I think that what we've built with these live streams are so fun you know, that there's no reason for us not to do it in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always down. You're the one with a busy life. I'm old and boring, so I'm always here anytime. Let me
Oh,
know.
stop it.
But all right, let's wrap this one up at an hour and 30 minutes. It was a good show, good stream. Thanks again for everyone that joined us and had all the great comments and questions. Until the next one, sign off and say bye now.
See you guys.